I'm going to have to sort of restrain myself, Denise, because I'm quite, I think the official term is active listener. I'm quite a sort of like, yeah, 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 yeah. And it gets really old when I listen back to the podcasts. So normally it's fine because when there's two separate audio recordings, I can just chop me out. But I'm going to be trying very hard to not constantly agree with everything you're saying.
Okay,
So if you think I'm a bit quiet, I'm doing my
that's
best to be quiet. And it's not because I'm not loving the conversation we're having. I have to say, when you agreed to come on the show, I didn't dare dream that you would want to talk about people, places, and things.
that was
And
the
so I was
only
so
thing.
pleased when that is what you revealed you wanted to chat about. I
Yeah, I
mean,
mean, how could I not? Like, I just feel like it's something I would talk about forever. I would do it forever if I was given, like, I had as much of an experience on that as, I was experiencing the spiritual thing just as
mm,
much as an audience was. I was right there with everyone
yeah.
thinking, fucking hell, this is incredible.
Was there a point early on when you were like, oh, this is going to be different from everything else I've done? This is going to be transcendent in a totally different way.
Yeah, it was the night that, so I noticed in previews,
Mm,
like I knew how much I loved it. There was a moment in rehearsals where I did the speech before the interval where she loses her shit and starts shouting about how she wants to live. And I
mm,
did that speech and I really went for it. And afterwards the room was really quiet and Jeremy Herron was really quiet. And usually
mm,
he'd take the piss out of me a bit or whatever, but there was just a moment of, I said, was that it all right? Is that okay? And he was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I thought, oh, that's a bit
an interesting
okay.
response.
I said, maybe this is really, because you see, I, as soon as I read the script, I knew it was a different play about addiction than I had ever seen or read before, because it
Mm,
was the most authentic, the most authentic record of addiction I'd ever read. And so I knew the play was special. I had known I had been out of work for a long time. So when they gave the part to me, I was like, okay, this is my re-entrance, which is amazing. I knew on the first day of rehearsals that I was overwhelmed that I was working at the National. But it was when the play started taking shape that I think, and we started working with these people in the Freedom Recovery Centre in Catford,
right.
this little treatment center that these two brilliant women set up. And we were visiting them a lot, and they were coming to the rehearsals, and they came to our first run through in the rehearsal room, and we all stood together and said the Serenity Prayer together. And these were, some people were on suicide watch, they didn't have any laces in
Mm,
their shoes and stuff. So I was like, this isn't about a play. And I mean, I had sort of let go of all of that anyway, and I was
mm,
just in it for pure joy at that point. And but I knew this play it was representing a tribe of people who are very important to me, and they felt absolutely represented. So I knew that that was really special. But then on
there's like a
the,
responsibility as well.
yeah, and it felt a bit like, oh, we don't have to care about what this does commercially. Like I never thought what was going to happen.
Right.
I never thought about it. And I just knew I was doing a play that addicts and people in recovery were going to love. The night before the press night, so the
Mm,
final preview, we were doing the show, and I knew that the guys from the recovery center were in. And so I had said to everyone before the show, I said, okay, so this is our opening night. The most important people are in the audience tonight. So this is our opening, our proper
yeah.
opening. And so there's a piece towards the end of the play where she is about to, she's either going to relapse or she's going to go to a meeting, and she picks up the phone and she decides to go to a meeting. And at that moment she says, I was wondering if you'd take me to a meeting. And one of the guys from the treatment center shouted out at the top of their voice, good girl.
Oh, God.
And I had to stop. So I stopped for a second, and then I carried on and we did the play. And that was the moment. And afterwards I said, we did it. Like tomorrow night doesn't matter. The opening night, the press, the critics, the the industry people, none of it matters, because we just got these people to a place where they believed in her and this play so much that somebody who had never been to the theater before shouted, "Good girl." So we've done it. And so now we must continue to do that.
One of my residing memories from seeing it, and I saw it on the West End, so I missed it at the National, sadly, was the bow. And I can remember coming home afterwards, and I keep a diary, and I can remember writing in it, I loved that Denise Gough smiled during the bow.
Yeah, because I wanted to be, sometimes you see an actor take a bow and they show you how hard it was.
Yeah,
But I was
I can't be doing with
I
that.
felt like Muhammad Ali at the end of my bow. And the very last night of the National, like I had a blackout in the bow, because I couldn't, it was so overwhelming and the audience were going so nuts, and I was like pumping the air like this, and then I turned around and then the whole cast was on stage, and then I turned around and all of the people from backstage were on stage, and I was like in the center of this huge ring of people like clapping, and I'm like hugging everybody, and I blacked out for a minute and for a second, and the company manager said, "You have to leave the stage because this is not going to stop." And man, did
Get
I
off the
cry.
stage.
It was really intense, really, really intense. I never believed in single curtain calls either. I don't like them. I always think, why is one actor taking a bow, right? So I'm a bit of a purist about, like, it's the company and it's the
Yeah,
team.
yeah.
And then on I think it was the third preview, I went out and I thought everybody was following me, and they didn't follow me.
Oh,
And the audience went berserk. And I thought, oh, it's not about me. They need a minute with her on her own.
yeah.
So I learned that, okay, so that's a good lesson, that, get my ego out of the way and give the audience, they need to make sure she's all right. They need to like thank her, all of that.
Yeah. That's
So
true,
that,
I think, of all applause. I always think that's an interesting thing, that when you see, it's very rare, but when you see a show where someone has chosen, a director's chosen not to have people bow at the end, and you go,
oh,
you're
bullshit.
taking something away from the audience, like they need that closure.
Yeah, because in ancient times, it was the breaking of the spell. Like, it's witchery. What we're doing is witchery and
I love
sorcery. And
that.
if you don't break the spell, the actors have to take it home with them. And that's not okay. Like, it's not fair to expect actors to carry the weight of the whole thing
I love
and
that.
not get anyone, like, you're basically clapping away the spirits.
So the speech that you've
Yeah.
picked, what is it? So you've picked what you described as the acting and addiction speech.
It was in the audition. I had prepared it. I'd been asked to prepare it, and I couldn't stop crying through it. And Jeremy said, maybe she's not so emotional. And I said, I have never been allowed to do a speech like this. So if you decide to give me the part, then after 2 weeks of doing it, maybe I'll stop crying. But right now, no. Right now, I am emotional as the actress doing a speech that was written. How did he know what it was like? How did somebody put what it is like to be an actress so perfectly? Like, in the year I was out of work before People, Places and Things, I finally had decided I'm going to go and be a teacher, and I'm going to be a great teacher. I had met myself on the darkest night of the soul and thought, you're really all right. You need to stop giving your power to this industry. And so when People, Places and Things came along, I had no need for what you thought of me. I didn't care. That's
Yeah.
why the whole process was just about, I'm working at the National on a play that means something. That if it all ends now, I'm good, And so it was so funny that this big explosion then happened, as if people, suddenly were like, oh, you're allowed in. It was like, no, I'm good where I am. All of that stuff, like the sudden awards and all of that was just icing. It wasn't like, the cake was already well and truly like perfectly cooked. I was like, yeah, whatever. And I got the greatest gift, which was that I'm able to choose my jobs now,
Yeah.
and that's all I ever wanted. I better do this speech.
I was about to say, talking of good, we'd better read it.